Hello, I'm Matt Williamson, and the final whistle just ended less than 5 minutes ago since I hit record. No question. It took me that long to gather up my stuff, fill up my water, get down to my basement, set up GarageBand, and start chatting with you guys. And the Steelers got whipped, and somewhat predictably, it leaves a bad taste in your mouth. There's no question. Eagles are a really, really good football team, and I think they might win the Super Bowl. And I wouldn't be shocked if they have the best Super Bowl odds in the whole league in a day or two when those things come out, whenever they come out. And I thought there was a lot of things that were apparent. And I also thought this was the first game of the year where it was pretty obvious that the Steelers, obvious, that they were the inferior of the two teams against a great football team in a place they haven't won in many of our lifetimes. That doesn't excuse anything. They got some problems, there's no question. Got a Watt injury to be concerned about, amongst other things. But the most important thing for the big picture of the season, and I said this before the game even started, is beating Baltimore next week and winning the division. The goal is to win the Super Bowl. The goal isn't to look good on national television against the Eagles. And the best path to winning the Super Bowl is winning the division. And that is still highly, highly attainable. Now, we can argue back and forth. Can the Steelers hang with the big dog teams? Maybe the answer is no. That's very possible. But they can win a division and host a playoff game and go from there. And to me, that's the goal. And has been for weeks now, when you knew that this was apparent. All right, I do think these halftime stats tell us a lot compared to the final stats, and as we always do, that's where we're going to start this disaster. At the half, it's 17-13. Wilson at that point is 9 for 16, but only for 67 yards after starting very, very slowly. But he had a touchdown, no interceptions. Hurts was 12 of 13 for 146. More on him later. My hat goes off to him. 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Saquon, they can tell the sideline reporters whatever they want, but he barely played in the second quarter and still only had 7 carries for 31 yards. Steelers did a great job on Saquon Barkley. That's something to be taken away from this game. Clearly that was the focal point as well. I think that part's kind of crazy that Sirianni said, we were just in passing situations. That's why Gainwell was out there instead of Saquon. I would have countered that by saying, so then you're telling me you chose not to play your best player or the best running back in the league all of the second quarter. But then they went back to him in the second half, so maybe it was all right. I don't know. But whatever. They did a good job on Saquon. First half, though, Steelers had 12 carries for 34 yards. More on that later. This run game's a problem. I think it's maybe the biggest problem on the team. We've talked about that for weeks. Freiermuth had 3 for 22 and a touchdown. A.J. Brown had 5 for 65 and a touchdown. Smith at this point only had 2 for 26. Steelers had 3 sacks compared to 2 for Philly. Again, this is at the half. Philly out first downed them 10-6. More on that. Third downs, Steelers were only 3 of 9. Eagles were 4 of 7. But they had run 30 and 31 plays respectively. Eagles had 1 more. But the yardage was 176 to only 80 for the Steelers. Yards per play, 5.7 to 2.7 in the first half. Even though the Eagles turned the ball over twice and the Steelers didn't have any. Time of possession was 15:42 to 14:18. Wait till you hear the finals on those. And pretty deep into this game, I tweeted out blowout. And then I went back and changed retweeted it, said, well, maybe I'm wrong. Well, then it ended up being a blowout. So they did hang around after kind of getting their doors blown off to start the game. But they averaged 0.2 yards per play in the first quarter. Not even half a yard per play. And my halftime notes were Hurts playing really well. Eagles keep feeding A.J. Brown. Eagles decided to throw. That's not their style, and it's working. Steelers only got 3 points off 2 early turnovers, both with great starting field position, one in the red zone. But they have been battling. But, man, you can't let those kind of opportunities turn into 3 points. Wilson started this game just 2 of 8. I thought Dickerson's injury would be huge for them. He's a great left guard, and Cam had his way with the backup, don't get me wrong. Okay, the final stats. Now, remember what we just talked about. These are kind of obscene when you think about just what happened in the second half. Hurts was 25 of 32 for 290, 2 touchdowns, and no interceptions. Really played well. And I thought going into this game that if Hurts beats you, so be it, and he beat you. Wilson was 14 for 22 for only 128, 1 touchdown, no interceptions. Saquon finishes 17 carries for 65. We'll take that all day long. But how terrible is this? Najee and Warren combined for only 10 carries in what was a close game, but for 26 yards between Najee and Warren. Smith and Brown were dominant players. Smith was 11 for 109, a touchdown. Brown was 8 for 110 and a touchdown. They had no answers for those guys, although I thought Porter, and I'm excited to watch him in the second viewing, did some really good things in coverage against these guys, and I'm not even blaming the Jackson injury. I mean, these two were really, really good. First downs, 26-10, obviously favoring Philly. Third downs, the Steelers end up 3 of 10, Eagles 10 of 17, that hardly even mattered. Plays run, 41 versus 77 for the Eagles. Yardage, 163 to 401 in a dominant Eagles situation. Yards per play doesn't look bad. Well, it is. 4-0 versus 5-2 in the Eagles' favor. We'll get to that again in a second here. Yards per rush, though. Steelers only averaged 3.3 yards per rush for the entire day. Eagles only averaged 3.1. However, that includes kneel downs. That includes what felt like 100 tush pushes, all of which were designed to gain 0 or negative yardage. So, that being said, Steelers' run defense was fine. Against a great running team. And they didn't allow explosives, which was a huge key for me into the game, So that part was okay. Turnovers, only 1 for the Steelers, only 2 for the Eagles. We talked about those two. But here's the story. Time of possession that was basically equal at the half ends up 20-08 for the Steelers versus 39-52 for the Eagles. And remember, the Steelers were the best time of possession team in the entire league coming into this. Brutal. BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting. From the earliest odds to in-game live betting, BetOnline provides you with all the action, the ability to watch the games as they happen. With the largest selection of odds on everything from football, NBA and college basketball, NHL to UFC and MMA. Head to BetOnline today to get on the action with America's most trusted site for online wagering. BetOnline, the game starts here. All right, fewer notes in this one than usual because I think this one, you don't need to be very well versed in the game of football to figure out exactly what happened here. But the game plan, rightfully so, was to make Hurts beat you. And he did. I thought he played extremely well. That's been the story in Philly all week. And I thought that was going to be their Achilles heel in terms of Super Bowl chances. He plays like this, they might be the best team in the league. And him and his 2 wide receivers were phenomenal. Phenomenal. I thought they had no answer for Smith in particular. I think Porter held his own with Brown. And I'm not going to say that just because of the Jackson injury. I'm sure it's a factor. But I also think Jackson's one of the more overrated Steelers, especially when it comes to man coverage. A couple other things that were, say, troubling. Steelers punted on 4th and 7 from the Eagles' 47 with 10:40 remaining in the game while they were down 27-13. I know that they don't have a ton of clubs in their bags at that point, but that's an unreal decision to me. I mean, I think that's insane. I know your chances of converting on 4th and 7, that is far from a sure thing. You're down 2 touchdowns, though, against a team that just closes and constrictors people to death. And you let them do it, and you never touch the ball again. Never touch the ball again. That and Najee's fumbled pitch, what I wrote down here typed was quickly extinguished all hope, if there really was any. I mean, if there was still flames flickering at that point of the game, they quickly got extinguished with those 2 plays in particular. But they're losing either way. I mean, they were the inferior team. That second half time of possession. It's exactly what the Eagles do, though. They lean on you. They play fast. They wear you out. They just control the football. Now we have to talk about Watt. It just came across my phone while I was talking to you guys that Coach Tomlin said it's a low ankle sprain. David Chow's one of these online doctors. He was real concerned it was a 5th metatarsal Jones fracture. So low ankle sprain. When it happened, I thought, oh, he's out for the year. Yeah, I mean, I thought it was something bad. So I guess this is the best news we can hope for. Again, the game ended 5 minutes ago. So I apologize if you know a lot more about this situation than I do when I'm recording this. I hope you do. I bet you do. But 3 games in 11 days, which, frankly, I have to take a second to tell me that the NFL cares about player safety, and you've got several teams playing 3 games in 11 days, is somewhat laughable. And if you're without Watt for that stretch, as opposed to 3 games in 21 days, well, that's a big deal. And again, somewhat of a money grab, obviously. But I also thought the lack of Steelers weaponry offensively was massively apparent in a game against top competition. And they didn't lose because of big plays or 1 or 2 huge plays or a bad call or the 4th down decision by Tomlin or Najee's fumble. They were just constantly abused pretty much start to finish with a few short stretches of competitive play on both sides of the ball. But 60-minute game, and for 45 of the minutes, the Eagles were just better. And the other 15, it was competitive. Again, first game all year where it was super clear that the Steelers were an inferior team. It's better than that happening against the Bears or the Colts or somebody like that. I mean, this might be the best team in the league. But my pregame key, I was on the pregame show with Tim Benz, and we do our biggest first pregame key to start the show. And mine was beat Baltimore. I know it's Eagles week, everyone, but the whole key is beat Baltimore. And I don't know this to be true, but if this were a playoff game, would Pickens, Ogunjobi, Elliott have played? Maybe. I definitely think there was some big picture thinking here. And this is not an excuse because you got whipped. That the most important thing you can do the rest of the year, the regular season, is beat Baltimore. How can we position ourselves in the best way to do that? The Ravens predictably blew out the Giants, and they're fresh coming off their bye. That late bye could do them a lot of good. We'll get to them, obviously, down the road. 2 last things. Like the Steelers, Kansas City has 3 games in 11 days, and Mahomes has a high ankle sprain. Will he be available Christmas? Does it matter for them? Probably does with the Bills winning, but just something to keep in the back of your noodle. And hey, let's end on a good note. The Steelers clinched a playoff berth today. Colts lost. Steelers won. Your Pittsburgh Steelers are going to the playoffs. Most likely, at worst, the 5th seed going to Houston. At best, the 3rd seed hosting the football game as AFC North champions. I'll take that on December 15th. Over and out.